Hi, I'm Paul Guppy with the Washington Policy Center, and this is our weekly update of actions that we're taking in the legislature and the different bills and issues that we're tracking. So first off, we are about halfway through the regularly scheduled 60-day legislative session for 2022. The first cutoff deadline has passed in the legislature, and that is any bill that is not passed its committee House of Origin is considered dead for the session, except for budget-related bills. Now, of course, the caveat is that no bill is ever considered really dead until the legislature adjourns. And the reason for that is that the leadership can bring up any bill at any time. But so far, about 2,000 bills have been introduced in total. This week, 475 of those bills met the committee deadline, were passed in committee, and are still considered alive, and they'll be considered for the rest of the session. The top issues that we're following include the following. Well, first of all, is an issue that's not in the legislature right now, and that is the income tax case, which is in court. The legislature passed a capital gains income tax last session that is now being challenged in court. Just on Friday, a Douglas County judge held a hearing on that. It's the first step in the legislative process. The state is asking for immediate review. They want a summary judgment on this issue so that that law can be confirmed and approved, and the state can start collecting the tax. The judge did not approve that in the first day. Also, the judge did not agree with the state's motion to throw out a lot of the evidence that Washington Policy Center has provided about why an income tax is unconstitutional in our state. That research was provided by Jason Mercier of our staff, and it's been introduced in court as part of the deliberations on this issue. So where it stands now is the judge held this hearing, and he's expected to give a ruling in about 2 weeks or so. We would be shocked if he gave a summary judgment. What's most likely is that he will allow this case to continue. Eventually, we know that it will go to the appeals court, and then down the road, go to the Supreme Court of the state. And we're not sure whether they will change their past rulings against an income tax and allow this one, or whether they'll confirm the current constitutional rule. So we'll continue to follow that closely. The next issue is the mileage tax proposal that's in the legislature. We just completed a statewide poll of over 500 people, asking them what they think about the idea of imposing a mileage tax in our state. And the result is that 61% said that they are against it. Only 32% said they strongly favored it or were somewhat in support. So that's about a 2-to-1 split in public opinion over the mileage tax. What's interesting to us is that this issue has been debated for a number of years, and yet there seems to be no movement. So we know that the Department of Transportation is trying to build support for a mileage tax. This idea has been debated in the legislature. There is a bill on it. Maria Frost on our staff has been following it very closely. And what we're trying to track is whether there's any movement in public opinion. So far, people are skeptical of this idea. I think the legislature will continue to study it and consider it, but we don't see this being enacted anytime soon, but it is a possibility. The next bill we're looking at is called HB 1874. This is an idea that our research has strongly supported over the years, and that is to lower professional licensing barriers for people who have completed a prison sentence and are trying to rebuild their life. So the state has a huge number of regulations and licensing before people can accept many jobs, particularly professional jobs, jobs that require training. And often it's very difficult for people who have completed their prison sentence and are trying to move on with life to actually meet these licensing requirements. So Todd Myers on our staff has worked in coalition with Columbia Legal Services. This is a defense legal services firm, and in helping people who have left prison get their life back together, get employment, reduce recidivism, and become productive members of society. So we're encouraged that that bill is moving forward. Next, Elizabeth Hovde on our staff, who covers healthcare, is tracking a bill, SB 5532. This idea has been around for a number of sessions, and that is to create a special state board that would review all medicine and drug prices in the state and impose price controls if people in government think that the price is too high. High drug prices is a major problem. So is affordability of healthcare. We understand that, but we do not think that a top-down price control agency is the way to go. For one thing, pharmaceutical companies have a choice about whether to sell their products in Washington state or not. And if the state begins to impose price controls, it's entirely possible that the supply of medicine will be reduced in our state. That doesn't help anybody. Also, this bill does nothing to create more competition, to lower barriers, to make drug companies compete more, to allow people to buy healthcare across state lines, for example. And that way, consumers would benefit by having more price competition. This bill doesn't take that approach, and we don't think that price controls are the right way to go. The next bill is one that we've tracked for some time, SB 5909, on limiting the governor's emergency powers. Currently, the governor's powers are completely unlimited. They've been in place for over 700 days now. This bill has very strong bipartisan support. It passed out of the Senate Government and Elections Committee by a unanimous vote. Democrats and Republicans joined together. The bill is not perfect. There are amendments that would strengthen it by putting a 60-day limit or a 30-day limit on the governor's emergency powers. However, this bill does provide for legislative review after a certain time period. And what's striking to us is how it has such broad support. So we have not heard yet from the governor as to whether he supports or opposes this idea, but later on in the session, that might not matter, because this bill looks like it's headed for passing with veto-proof majorities. And if that's the case, it will be enacted even if the governor decides that he doesn't like it. So we'll keep tracking that. Next, another bill that made the committee deadline in the Senate, in the same committee, Government and Elections, is SB 5843. This is a bill that Washington Policy Center testified on. We published an analysis about it. It's a somewhat controversial bill that the governor has proposed, which would make it a gross misdemeanor to spread lies or misinformation or to create controversy about the election process or the outcome of elections. The bill applies to only elected officials and candidates for office, not the general public. It raises major First Amendment concerns. What we have pointed out, it also raises concerns about stifling free speech, preventing people from debating elections. As controversial as that is, makes it difficult to have honest debate in our democracy. We have made those points, but even so, a majority on the committee, it passed by just 3-2. So it was a close partisan vote, but it did pass the committee deadline, and it will be sent over to the House or to the full Senate and then be considered in the House as well. And we'll keep tracking that. Next is another issue that we are encouraged about, and that is ideas to propose tax relief. We think the atmosphere is right for this. The state finances are very strong. The state expects about an $11 billion surplus in the next 2 budget cycles. There are 2 bills introduced. One is a Democrat proposal, SB 5932, to reduce the state sales tax. A lot of Republicans support that idea as well, so it's bipartisan. And then there's a Republican proposal, SB 5769, a little more complicated, but what it would do is reduce the property tax burden and reduce business taxes to encourage employment. What we like about this is that there's an open debate about providing tax relief. There are proposals from both parties. As all of our supporters know, we are not a partisan organization in any way, and so we like the idea that a variety of lawmakers are proposing tax relief in different forms, and we are encouraging the legislature to take a look at this, because with rising inflation, we believe the time is right for the people of Washington to have some reduction in the tax burden. With that, I hope that provides good information about what we're looking at. We'll continue to stay engaged. We encourage you to share this video with other people who might be interested. We always appreciate the support of our donors and members, and we are willing to, as I just described with tax relief, we are always open to working with legislators of both parties to pass good ideas for our state. The more we can find common ground and move together for the benefit of everyone, the better. That would reduce tension and create more cooperation in our government. And as we return to a post-COVID time at some point, we think that returning to kind of normal democratic politics in our state is the way to go, and we look forward to doing that. In the meantime, I will be back next week with our next update. Thank you.